Welcome to Attunement with Courtney O'Keefe. I'm your host, Courtney, and I'm so excited to have you on today for our first root chakra business highlight. And today we have Tina on, and I am so excited to talk to Tina about her story, her background, and her business, and what she can do for your root chakra. I met Tina last year at a retreat, Rare Soul Retreats. And I did not know anything about what Tina does, but I knew instantly I was going to be good friends with her because she is a magnetic soul and she is a wealth advisor at High Point Partners located in Downers Grove. And I'm really excited for you to hear about her background and her business. So, Tina, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me, Courtney. This is so exciting, and I love everything that you've got going on. Like, so excited to hear and see all the things that you're bringing to life.
Thank you so much. If we could kick it off and you could tell us a little bit, before we get into everything you do in business, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the most fascinating things about me is that I was born in Macedonia. If it's this tiny country that's right above Greece. It was former Yugoslavia. And I moved here with my family right before my fifth birthday. So I grew up like Eastern European household, having a lot of people in our home all the time, lots of family.
Yeah.
Um, so I feel like from a young age, and I'm the oldest of four, we lived with my grandparents, my parents. And so from, a young age, I feel like I got to learn really quickly two different languages.
Mhm.
So I spoke Macedonian until I was about like really fluently at home, till I was about 10.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. Like English was there. I
Yeah.
remember going to like having like English as a second language classes when
Yeah.
we would go. And we actually grew up in Gary, Indiana.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
So English
yeah,
was a second language for you. Talk about just root chakra right there, being
yeah.
plucked out of your environment and coming to America. That's a huge shift.
Huge. And it's interesting because as I've gotten to talk to you and just talking about root chakra, I've done so much work with my root chakra, and I think as I even just say, like being born in Macedonia and at the age of 4, like
Yeah.
right before turning 5, just being like uprooted and moved to a totally different country that's so foreign, right? Like in Macedonia, I grew up in a village.
Yeah.
So like I probably saw more animals, really than
Yeah.
people outside of our neighbors.
Hmm.
And we grew up on a farm. So it was culture shock.
Totally.
I mean, all of it. It was just like new home, new people, new surroundings, people that didn't look like the people I grew up with, right? So
Yeah.
just very different. Yeah, it definitely caused a lot of uncertainty. And I think as much control as a 4-year-old can have, right? It was just like,
Mhm.
whoa, where am I now? It
Yeah.
was different for sure. Yeah.
No control. And I feel like a lot of your programming stems from when you're a child, and just experiencing that at 4 is so transformative. Having a 4-year-old myself, I know how crazy that would be for my 4-year-old.
Yeah, absolutely. And wildly enough, so I have two sisters and a brother, and my brother was born here. But
Oh,
the
really?
three, yeah, and the three of us were born in Macedonia. So like we all travel together, and then mom's pregnant and has like this little boy here,
Wow.
and so we're 5 years apart, which was also really, really neat. And I think also change,
Hmm.
for a child to like leave home with one like set of family that and then come to a different country and have another set and someone else into the family. So that was actually, um, that was kind of interesting now that I, reflect upon it.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, yeah. So having that upbringing, what made you want to go into the root of finance
Yeah.
and wealth?
Growing up or being an immigrant and growing up in an immigrant family, money was always a challenge.
Hmm.
It was, and it was also something we didn't talk about.
Yeah.
We didn't have it. My parents came here. They both worked. I mean, my father worked construction. My mother worked 3 jobs to try to support us. We lived with our grandparents who helped out. And I think for me, what I learned is like my grandpa would take me to the bank and he'd take me places and I'd have to translate for him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was probably 9, 10, and speaking a different language and talking about money.
Mm,
And I think beyond that, I saw the struggles.
yeah.
I saw the struggles that my family personally faced being immigrants here and
Mhm.
the different challenges that arose with that, and then going to school and, my family looked different.
Yeah.
They're Eastern European, and I remember my grandma and her like babushka, and
Mm.
and then I remember being like, okay, well, I want to fit in. Like,
Yeah.
how can I fit in? And, when you're young, it's hard to understand, like, oh, do my parents, can they really afford to give us this lifestyle that we envision because it's what we see? And
Mhm.
so I think from a young age, I just made the decision that, like, I did not want to live that way.
Yeah.
And figuring money out was really the only way that I would change my life.
Yeah. Absolutely. And as a woman, money just feels like a very taboo topic. It's not talked about. It's categorized as masculine. And it's really empowering to see you in the position that you're in and how far you've come and what we'll get into it. Your vision and the way you talk about money and teach your clients about money is so beautiful.
Thank you. And you're absolutely right. As women, we don't really talk about it, and even I think being in corporate America, like we don't really talk about even our salaries. Not that you
Mhm.
want to talk about like, hey, what are you making? Or like, am I at a good place, compared to someone else? Like we don't even know really where to gauge ourselves. And look, let me take a step back and say, I definitely made many mistakes with money during my journey to be where I'm at today, and I think the one thing that I keep reminding myself and anyone that I sit down with, it's really taking responsibility
Yeah.
and ownership because we deserve to know. And
Yeah.
not only know, it's like we can't change the past.
Mhm.
We cannot go back and change any way that we've either behaved with money or what we've done with money or how we've spent money or whatever that may be. The only thing that we can truly do is take a look where we are today
Yeah.
and say, hey, I want a different relationship with money.
Wait, this is crazy because I pulled an oracle card before and I meant to talk about this in the beginning, but this just fits perfectly in here. I pulled presence. Welcome to the
Mm,
here and now, which is exactly
yes.
that. Oh, that's cool.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you know what that made me, I think something that presence, and then I think like talking about my background, just like where I came from and the way that I saw money within maybe my ancestors or just
Mm,
like lineage, if you think about any of us, right?
yeah.
My mom, I will say she handled the finances. Like
Did she?
my dad worked, brought the money home, but my mom like paid the bills and made sure
Mhm.
things got done. So finances from that standpoint,
Yeah.
right? Like just making sure everything's paid. And she, I think from a young age invested in a 401k. So I think she had the like mindset of maybe doing something different. Although I think about my grandma, right? And the generations behind us. And
Mm,
it's like, they didn't know. And if
no.
they didn't know, how are they going to teach the younger women
Yeah.
ahead of them? And so I think being present is so important. So
Yes.
important.
Absolutely. And that's just touching on generational cycles, just the energy behind it all, the energy of money and how women experience money is so different than how men experience it.
It is. It is. And listen, and we're probably going to jump ahead in this, and I'm just going to
Mhm.
start with this conversation because we're here and there is a energetic flow to money. I mean,
Mhm.
money is currency. It's energy within itself. And there is definitely a masculine energy behind it. And only because I don't know. I don't know if the word is being afraid
Yeah.
from a feminine perspective to like really sit down and it's challenging because there are some women that I sit down with and they're like, I just don't know anything. Like
Mhm.
I don't even know where to begin. That's and I feel like I often forget how well I do know the language.
Mm.
When someone says that to me, it's almost like, well, what do you mean you don't know?
Mhm.
And then it's a very awakening moment for me when I
Yes.
have those conversations.
Yes. And we can even dive into that now. You have
Yeah.
experienced the finance world in a corporate setting for a very long time. And I would love to talk about your journey in the corporate setting and what you learned there, what you were doing, and how you transitioned out of that as well.
Yeah. Okay. I think for me, again, I go back to this journey. Like I was on a mission.
Mhm.
I wanted to learn money and I wanted to learn it from the brightest minds on Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
And it was definitely challenging, right? The higher up a corporate structure you go, or the bigger corporate structure is smaller, there's challenges along the way. For me, I started off in the industry right out of college, so a finance degree from Purdue, corporate finance, right? So it's like
Yeah.
totally different than what I even do. And that was definitely a foreign language. And I'm so grateful to, I have a handful of professors that I feel like I was so lost, like had like deer in
Mm-hmm.
headlights. And they just really helped me stay on path and give me the guidance to be kind of where I am today. And for me, I feel like my strong suit was always relationships. It was people. I really cared about people and I really wanted to help. So it was like, how do I do that? And I had the privilege of starting right out of college, which was wild because it was August of 2007. It was
Mm.
like the height
R-
of the market, like
yeah, right
fresh,
before the
right?
fall.
Yes, right before like one of the biggest financial crisis, if not the biggest financial crisis that we experienced,
Oh my
right in
gosh. Yeah.
2008. And so here I am, like all ready to go, like I'm ready to learn, 23 years old, soak it in, the
Mm-hmm.
market's high. And I remember getting into this financial advising practice. And actually for all the younger women that are listening to this, my career counselor at Purdue was a big component of getting my job right out of
Oh, that's
college.
amazing.
Yes, like she helped introduce me to someone she knew, and she was like, "Hey, I think that this is someone maybe you should connect with." And
Hmm.
she happened to be Macedonian, actually, the woman she
Oh my
introduced me to.
gosh.
I know,
That is
right?
wild. Talk about a
Yes,
little
yeah.
synchronicity right there.
Yeah, so I started working for this woman and she was a badass. She was a hustler, she taught
Yeah.
me and in a good way, right?
Yeah.
Like she had a family she needed to take care of. She was divorced. She taught me everything that I know about financial planning, really,
Yeah.
and how to properly do it. And I think for me, from a young age, right at 23, and then seeing the financial crisis and then dealing with people's emotions, I mean, it was hard
Oh my
because
gosh. Yeah.
you would just, I got to see clients' accounts go from where they were to in half,
Oh, jeez.
and at such a young age to like really kind of work through that mentally and emotionally. And it was also great because it was an incredible learning opportunity. I mean, it was like I was like a sponge soaking it all in. And I would sit down with different asset managers, and those are the companies that we invest in. And I would ask questions, and she taught me the questions to ask, to try to understand what was happening, to help clients. And the majority of the clients were retirees.
Wow.
I know, right? So that was the beginning of my career path, a financial advisor. And then I decided I'd always dreamt about going to the city. Like I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to work for a big firm, be in the city. I was 25 years old and I moved downtown and started working for Morgan Stanley, where I was
Amazing.
my independent financial advisor. So on my
Okay.
own, building a practice. I spent about 3 years there and that was hard. I was 25 years old trying to get clients. And I think that's the other thing. Being a woman and being young
Mm-hmm.
and sitting down in front of people and asking them to give you and trust you with all their assets at I mean, there was a level of confidence and, a lot of pressure too
Yes. Oh
to
my
try to figure
gosh.
that
Yeah.
out. And there was always mentors and people who helped me along the way and how to build a portfolio and how to manage it. And then, so I was an advisor for about 8 years in the beginning of my
Okay.
career. And then I personally myself went through a divorce. And at the time I had become a certified divorce financial analyst. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I was like, listen, if I'm a financial advisor and if I'm going to get divorced, I guess I got to learn
Yeah.
everything there is about a
Oh
divorce.
my gosh.
That
Yeah.
was a
Yeah.
really challenging time in my life. And however, it helped me understand, it really helped me take out the emotion
Mm.
and be
Yeah.
like, numbers don't lie, right? Like, it was
Yeah.
like, this is all of it. How do I figure this out without being so emotionally attached and draining, right? When you're
Yeah.
going through such a challenging emotional time. So after that, I decided that I needed to learn more about really how to manage money because
Mm.
now I was in a different place.
Yeah.
Like I planned, so I learned how to do all this foundational, right? All this root chakra work. Like, how
Yeah.
do I build stability? How do I build foundation? How do I build a plan? And now, how do I expand my
Mm.
frequency?
Mm-hmm.
and how do I expand my wealth?
Yeah.
And it was, okay, well, I've got to learn how to manage this money.
Wow.
So, yeah, so I was lucky enough to go over to asset management, where I now was no longer advising and consulting people. It
Mm-hmm.
was like individuals or families, right? Like private wealth.
Yeah.
I was advising financial advisors. I was consulting them,
Okay.
different portfolios and different investments that they could put their clients into for
Okay.
for pretty big. I worked for Nuveen, and then the last company I worked for was Pimco.
Okay.
So, I mean, over $1 trillion in
Yeah, that's
assets at
wild.
both firms. It was beautiful. And, I think for me, I feel like this is where I learned early on, especially in finance. We would be on calls like this where we would be talking about, hey, this is what's going on in the market. This is what this portfolio is. This is what it does. And I'd raise my hand. I'd be like, I don't really understand that. Like, can you explain that to me? Like, can you
Yeah,
go deeper? That was hard
that
because
is
it's a
so
room
hard. That takes
full
so
of
much
men.
courage.
Yes. So hard, so hard, and so cool at the same time, And I think also if we go back to like masculine and feminine energy, I learned how to live in my masculine for a long time.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine. You're
Yeah.
surrounded by masculine energy there.
Yes, and even the women that were there, right? It was
Mm-hmm.
more masculine and feminine.
Totally, because that's who you're interacting with.
Yeah.
And I like to think of money as a masculine energy as well.
Hmm.
And I do think, and I think we've talked about this recently, it feels more feminine. I don't know what your thoughts are on just the energetics of money and masculine versus feminine.
That's a great question. And the first thing that comes to me, it's a little bit of both.
Mhm.
And I say that because when I think about masculine energy, when it comes to money, from my
Mhm.
perspective and my experience, I think about structure,
Yeah.
plan, design,
Yes.
and like strategy. When I think about feminine energy, and something that's probably newer to me,
Mm.
is the ability and openness to receive and expand.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful way to put that.
Yeah. And that's come to me recently, like as I've been continuing to do the work, right? So it goes back to what we were saying earlier, like, hey, as women, as a woman myself, like, I really don't want to break down all my expenses and go through my credit card and like deconstruct everything that I'm spending. Cause I don't
Yeah.
want that's like challenging for me to look at,
Yeah.
right? Cause I'm like, oh, then I remind myself, okay, no judgment,
Yeah.
because now I'm getting real. And there is no one judging me outside of myself,
100%.
ultimately, right? 'Cause that's what it is. It's a
It
judgment within
is. It
ourselves.
is.
It is. So I think it's like, okay, well, if I can allow myself some grace, some compassion, some understanding,
Yeah.
right? To just like go deep and see, and again, we can't change the past, so it doesn't even matter. But
Yeah.
I just need to get an idea of like where I've been, right? I need to get comfortable
Yeah.
with opening my bank statement, my credit card statement, any account that I have, and just being like, hey, I like where you're at. I
Mm.
see you, and I see what I'm doing.
Yes. And that's like a practice.
It is a practice. and
That
it's so
should
much
be a daily practice.
and it's so much easier said than it is done,
Oh,
right? And
100%.
my husband always says to me, he'll always be like, you've got to practice what you preach.
Mm.
I was like, oh, you're right.
So hard.
Right. I gotta go back. You're right. And now like I think so, back to that, like I like to think, I feel like being in corporate, as long as I was, like, it is structure.
Mm-hmm.
It is this like, fitting in this routine, and there's nothing wrong with corporate. Okay. I think where I feel like maybe where the biggest disconnect for people is that, I think that there's this misconception that I only need to see a financial advisor right when I'm about to retire.
Yeah.
Okay. And while I work in this corporate gig, this corporate career that I have that I love, and listen, I'm all for it because it taught me more than I could have ever learned. And I met some incredible people, and it gave me the strength and courage and background and confidence to do what I'm doing today. I think where the disconnect is, there is no plan,
Yeah.
like yes, people might be saving like 401k and doing things. It's just like, what am I working towards?
Yeah.
Like
What's the end
retirement
game?
yeah, like, is it retirement at whatever age, or like what is the life that I want today? And I think that that's, so for me, during COVID, there was a big, I left one firm to go to another, and that was a big transition for me. And I was on the road a lot. I was actually living in Chicago. My clients were in Florida. So I was like flying all the,
Wow.
yeah. And I was like, I can't do this. Like, it's time for me to be home or just figure out my next step. And there was something inside of me that was just, that there's that calling. There's
Yeah.
that thing that you're like, I'm like, okay, I'm at my dream firm that I always wanted to be at. I'm working towards a territory that I want. And why am I not happy?
You could feel it. What
You
made you
know,
want to switch it up then?
so I did a plan.
Yeah.
I
It
was like,
feels like
okay,
manifesting almost.
it is manifesting, right? Because it's putting it to work. And
Yeah.
and for me, where again, I go back to the knowledge that I gained and, the 15 plus years of experience in finance, like I took all those practices that I learned and actually put them to work.
Yeah.
Where I was like, okay, what is that number for me? Like, what's that number for me in cash or investments or whatever it is that'll allow me, it's just gonna allow me a pause. I'm not done. I'm not going to step out. However, if I'm not happy and I'm hitting, different thresholds, like what is next for me? And so I think for me, I had this calling to like come back to myself. And I think working in corporate for a long time, I don't know, maybe we get lost in
In the machine.
translation. Yeah, or lost in our way on our journey. And I just I felt lost. I felt lost. And during COVID, I started to meditate. I really got into the wellness side of things. And thank God, because it
Mm.
was game changer, right?
Yeah.
So I think for me, I was like, I need a minute. Like I need a minute before I make my next move so I can, because it's easy to go from one firm to another and just jump, right? And we all have different responsibilities, different challenges. I think though, for me, it was like putting a plan in place.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what do I want to do in 3 months? What do I want to do in 6 months? What do I want to do in a year? And so I took some time off. Well, and look, let's be real. It was not easy.
Oh my God.
No, and I think this goes all back to the root chakra.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It really does, right? Because when we feel stability and we feel we have control and, certainty because we know what the next day looks like,
Hmm.
stepping away from that, especially for me, I think being uprooted.
Yeah.
And although I feel like being uprooted at a young age allows me to kind of
Mm.
feel comfortable being uprooted, or maybe that's what I knew,
Yes. Oh my
you
gosh.
know?
Yeah. The discomfort was familiar for you in a sense.
Yeah, yeah. And then so I think for me, and it's interesting now again, because when I left my career and I hired a coach.
Mm.
Like it wasn't, I mean, it was a transition. It
Huge
was like
transition.
preparation. Yes. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of heartbreak. It was letting go of an identity. It was like letting go of everything that I worked for.
Yeah.
And it was worse than a breakup.
Oh my
You
gosh.
know,
Yeah. Because
it
it's
was like,
like a part of you.
it was a part of me. It was just like, and I remember having my girlfriends and some of my girlfriends who grew up with me in the industry, and they were just like, what is happening?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it was just like, so once I made that decision, definitely had some travel in place
Mm.
because that was something that I was being called to. And then shortly after, I was introduced to Reiki.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was game changer for me and just helping me really get to know and reconnect with myself
Hmm.
and really start root chakra up.
Yeah.
No. So I think taking that pause, which I feel like we often don't.
No. Especially, it sounds like you really listen to your intuition because I don't know how that experience was for you, but what did it feel like a scream? Like you need to do this or something's not gonna align for you? Or how did you feel that nudge and like jump into it?
For me, it was all the rejection.
Mm.
It was like rejection after rejection after rejection. And that was like my biggest fear, being rejected,
Yeah. So you
right?
saw it in your physical world that things
Oh,
were changing.
physical. I mean, it was,
Wow.
and even in career, right? I'd come up against this and I'd be like, wait, it's not what that's supposed to like really look like,
Hmm.
And so, yes, I felt it, I saw it. And I think I came to a place where I was just like, that's one of those moments where you drop to your knees and you're just
Mm.
like, okay, what is happening? Like, I surrender.
Mm-hmm.
I surrender what is next because
Yeah.
I can't live this way,
Yeah.
which is, it's not easy to do.
Oh my gosh, no.
No.
I'm proud of you for doing that. That's
Thank
amazing.
you. Thank you. It did. It took a lot of hard conversations, a lot of strength, a lot of courage. And look, after I did it, I think there was this like time that I had at home and it was getting to know myself. Like, who
Mm.
am I without this routine and this hustle and this bustle and being on the go and this high anxiety and like,
Yeah.
what does this look like? And lots of moments where I stood in the bathroom in the mirror and it was like, what did you do?
Mm. Yeah.
Right? As the tears are like rolling down. And it was hard because I didn't want to let it go.
Yeah.
I
That's a
didn't.
huge shift.
Huge shift. However, my body, I think for the first time really in my life, because I think probably the majority of us, and maybe more so women than men, and I think men do it too. They just do it maybe differently. It's suppressing that emotion
Oh my gosh, yeah.
or that intuition. Like it was for me, I think it was my body, like physically starting to be like, I can't handle
Mm.
the stress.
Yeah, because you'll see those symptoms.
Yes, yes. And then after, I think Reiki, meditation, yoga, so grateful to the drip community when I moved to
Mm.
Glen Ellen and I mean, finding that space. I think that that's the other thing. It was like having a sense of community because my community was also the finances.
Your finance community, yeah.
Yeah.
I think about that with my husband often too. He's in finance,
Yeah.
and those are all of his best friends, and that is his identity. I don't know what he would do without it.
And I think what's hard is like I love this industry.
Mm.
I do. I really do have a love for money.
Yeah.
And I value it.
Mm.
And I value it differently and love it differently today than maybe I did for sure 3 years ago
Oh,
or 10 or
absolutely.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think that coming back and I guess, to go back to your question, like leaving corporate to go independent
Yes.
and do something on my own, for sure, the scariest thing that
Mhm.
I've ever done,
Yeah.
ever, really. And with that, you know what I'll say? I've also I've listened to a lot of different people talk about money too, as I was, even though I'm in money and understand money, I think hearing money from a spiritual perspective is also very different. So just some
Yeah.
different conversations. And, part of this plan that I did for myself and created this like vision board, but it
Mm.
actually plan and strategy. It was like, okay, I have this money that I've saved, that I've worked for, that I've
Yeah.
invested. And now what?
Mhm.
Now what? I chose to, I guess, like retire
Yeah.
a, a career,
Yeah.
a career path. And like, now what? And I heard someone say on the podcast that I was listening to that energetically, the money that we do save and invest and hold on to, technically, the way that it expands is to be released in order to
Mm.
be able to receive more. So the feminine energy,
Interesting.
right?
Yeah.
So just like a very different relationship with money,
Yes.
like letting it go,
Yes.
not clinging. And letting it go, when I say that, like, look, letting it go wisely and strategically, right?
Yes.
Not just like, hey,
Not just
blindly just
carelessly.
spending it because I don't need it. Yes. It's just realigning my values and my relationship to it.
Yeah, that's really cool. I actually read a book on that last year, just the flow of money and how if you let it go with like the best intentions, with a lot of intention behind it, and I can't think of the title right now, that it will come back to you.
Yeah.
And I thought that
And
was beautiful.
and it is, and it's hard. Again, I think if I speak from my, wealth advisor hat,
Hmm.
it is different because to me, every dollar needs to have a purpose. Even
Yeah.
when we sit down with clients and, when people come to me and they're like, hey, what should I invest my money in? And I'm like, okay, well, I really can't answer that for you
You need the
because
vision board, you need the plan.
yes, right. And I need to know, what is your relationship to money?
Yes. Oh,
You know,
interesting. Yeah. Like the
and it's
mindset.
Yes, exactly. And it's hard because most people, I don't know that most people know their relationship to money.
No.
It's probably something that they've inherited, right? Meaning inherited like beliefs about money
Yes.
from either family or
Yeah.
surroundings or whatever it may be. And I think the most beautiful thing for me to watch is to see like husband and wife or partners come in and for us to talk about money.
I love that.
Yeah.
I have never been more scared in my life to talk to Chris about money. And when I started my own business, that was like a whole game changer for me, having to sit down and really focus on what I am spending my money on and how I am making my own money. And that was very healing for him and I to sit down and talk about it. Highly
Yes.
recommend talking with your partners about money.
Yes. And look, I think, like you said, Courtney, you were scared. And
Yeah.
I guess what'd you do to kind of get through that
Well,
fear?
I was very triggered. I'll tell you that. I'm not going to lie about it. I mean, and with him being in the finance world, I was scared because he is so knowledgeable that I don't understand a lot that he talks about. And coming in and saying that up front to him and being like, look, I want to understand where we are investing, what our accounts are, what I need to know in case of an emergency, honestly. And I want to sit down and I want you to explain all this to me in a language that I can understand. And that he was like, "Oh my God, I'm so happy that you want to talk to me about this because I've been trying to talk to you about this forever and you just shut down." I was like, "Yeah, I have."
Yes. And I'm proud of you. That's a
Thank
big
you.
step. You're welcome. And look, I think it's the first thing is admitting it, right?
Right.
And or like being in the right mindset and frame of mind to have that conversation, right? Because
Mhm.
all of us are going to be triggered. I still get triggered.
Yeah.
And again, I've been working in this space for a long time, and there's moments my husband will ask me something and it'll go off,
Mhm.
and I remind myself like, hey, I don't have to have all the answers in this
Yeah.
moment, and no one does. And I think it's that first step, like I've have some clients who come to me and they're women and they're like, listen, I need to learn before I even have this conversation.
Yeah.
Like I need to learn. Like I need to, and I don't want to ask them.
Yes. So do you teach your clients then all like the backbone or do you send them
Yeah.
to certain places to learn?
No, I teach.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. It's not that complicated. I think the industry and the words and the jargon and all these things have made it more complicated than it is.
Yes.
Do you
I
you know what I mean?
totally
Like,
agree. I
yeah,
totally agree.
it is. It's so, and I think I feel like for me, that's why I want to bring the feminine. Like,
Mm.
hey, let's just talk. Let's
Yeah.
create the space to have this conversation. Because I get it. Earlier, like I mentioned, I had to ask some really tough questions
Yeah.
about portfolio management I mean, they're talking about all these different words and I'm like, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I have no idea, but I need to ask
Yeah.
because I want to know. And it's pretty, for me, it's like rewarding watching the women that I do work and the men, because listen, not all men too. Let me be
Yeah.
real. Not all men really understand or care to understand because it's easier to have sometimes the woman take care
Mhm.
of the finances because they're working and providing for the family. And look, I think too, that's something that I often struggle with like the women that come in or that I talk to because we'll process something in our meetings. And I'm like, now you need to talk to your husband
Mm.
or your partner. However, you've got to let them process,
Yeah. There's gotta be a
because
sense of calm in the
yeah,
conversations.
there has to be, right? Because you and I just processed
Yeah.
and I held that space for you.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, you've got to let them like digest and process and then come back to you. Like, and I think there is no simple way outside of like, I do believe that in relationships, being on the same page and having an understand, because money, there's that saying like money is the root of all problems. Like,
Yeah.
that's not true. That's
No.
not true. Like that's not, it's the root.
Yes.
That's the
What's
problem.
the root? There
What
you
is the
go. I
root?
feel like
Yeah.
money would be really offended that we keep saying that.
A
You know
hundred
what I mean?
percent. Yes. Because we would all love to have money. And that's the thing. Like, I think talking about even money, just you and I saying money as much as we have, and
Mhm.
maybe where the energy around money from when we started this conversation to now,
Yeah.
it's a very different feel about money,
100%.
And so, and that's why when I say like, I have a love for money and I have an appreciation and value for it,
Which takes a
Be-
lot of work.
a lot of work. And it does start with the root chakra because I do believe that if we aren't grounded
Mm,
and centered
yeah.
and just rooted like in our within ourselves when we're having these conversations, there is no stability.
Yeah.
That's where we can fly off
Yeah.
the wall and have these heated conversations with whoever it is. I
Yeah.
mean, think about it. Think about money even when somebody's asking for a raise or negotiating a compensation package.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And it is about self-worth.
It is 100%.
I think even beyond that, to your point, like it's so important that, and I'm not going to just say women, I'm just going to say people in general
Hmm.
know, whether married or not, single, whatever, just like where everything is.
Yes.
Like just under, like getting organized, getting clear, because we all work for money.
Yeah.
We all
Yeah.
work, right? And if we don't have that organized and have this like bubble of protection around it,
Hmm.
how do we ever get to where we want to be?
100%. 100%. And you touched a little bit on the things you do for your clients, but if you could tell us what your typical like client structure is, that would be amazing.
Yeah, it's no different than what we're doing now. Like
Mm.
clients come in, we have a conversation, we get to know each other,
Yeah.
get to know what their goals are, why they're there, what they're looking for. And everyone's in a different place in their journey.
Yeah.
So it's a discovery meeting. Like let's
Yeah.
just figure out where we're at. And then it's building a financial plan,
Mm.
which is really cool because I always tell someone like, can you like people have things everywhere, whether it's like 401k, IRA, kids investments. Like some people have it here, some people have it there, some people have it where banks, checking, savings. Imagine just seeing all that on one piece of paper,
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
right? Just like where is everything? How is it titled? Who are the beneficiaries? Like some things
Yeah.
as basic as that.
Yeah. That
I
feels
mean, that's where
so
it
beautiful and
starts.
organized. Just you saying that.
And that's where it starts. Honestly, when people come in, they're like, everyone's always like, I want to get to investing. I want to get to investing. And I'm like, that's last.
Hmm.
To me, investing is the easiest part.
Yeah.
It's understanding like, okay, so once we get that figured out, okay, then what is the income? What is the money that comes in? What
Hmm.
are the money? What's the money that goes out? What are your expenses?
Yeah.
And realistically, great, we figure out expenses. And then now I'm going to have you do that work.
Yeah. The
Go like
practice.
the practice. And for me, again, I tell clients like, look, it is going to be the most grueling, not fun, like intimidating.
It's a little bit of a mirror experience.
It is definitely that. And however, again, remember, and I always tell clients, it doesn't matter what you've done in the past. What this helps you do is like recognize, you know what, more than anything, it lets you see patterns.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like you can catch patterns that quick. And typically when a client says to me, like, even when we're going through expenses, in conversations, like I can catch on patterns really quick.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what do I see? What do I want to change? And what do I want to break? Like, where do I break the chain? Where do I break that cycle that
Yeah.
I want? Doesn't matter what I've done, but here's what I'm going to do moving forward.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm going to
Absolutely.
practice this. And then I think a cool thing about a financial advisor is that, like clients have their money with me, and this is any financial advisor. And then if they want to take money out, we'll have a conversation.
Mm. There's some accountability there.
Accountability.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there's no shame in that. There's nothing,
Yeah.
there's no, there's like, and I've up until doing this amount, I've had an advisor that I've worked with
You
myself. Like I've
yourself. Yeah.
hired. Yes.
Because you
Yes.
believe in it.
Because I believe in it. And I wish I would have still done it younger.
Oh my gosh. That in general, talking about children,
Yes.
teenagers, even young adults, just the conversation around money. There is none.
No. And and I'll share this with you. Andy has two children, and they are awesome and I love them and they know what I do for a living.
Hmm.
So and they're like so dear and special to me, as my bonus children.
Yeah.
So I've sat down with both of them and said, hey, this is what you have in your piggy bank.
Amazing.
Okay. Like, let's write out all your expenses. And by the way, I'm going to run a plan on you. and I'm going to show you what happens if you invest this. And then we're going to talk about investments. And I'm going to teach you about investments. And like, it's so cool to see both of them like talk about the stock market and like different, like the
Yeah.
Magnificent Seven or Magnificent Eight, and they can name them, right? Like, it's
Wow.
just really, yes, it's really
Powerful.
powerful. It's really powerful. And, there's a lot of things that I'm working on that I'm super excited that I'll definitely have to share with you. That's a big passion of mine.
Yeah.
Big passion of mine, teaching kids, really teenagers and kids
Mhm.
too from a younger age. However, teenagers, I think in this world, like it's hard because
Mhm.
we want to give our kids everything we didn't have.
Yeah.
And
And they have
at the
more
same,
responsibility. They start making their own decisions,
yes,
and having that knowledge under their belt is super important, I think. I was
super important.
so reckless with my money.
Girl, I made so many mistakes, so many horrible mistakes. And I've learned like when I was younger and a teen, and I wish I would have done things differently. And
Yeah.
it's taught me some very hard lessons in life. And
Mhm.
I think that's where for me, I think it's just also being able to educate. I think if we start younger,
Mm.
it'll also help parents.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah.
So there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to money and even just generational planning. I mean, look, this is where we are going to see like we're living in it, and we've never experienced something, but there's so much generational wealth that is being transferred down. So
Yeah.
much.
And you wouldn't normally think about that.
No, because we have all these baby boomers retiring,
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah.
and even so look, I think that we are in a very beautiful moment in life, and we're going to go back to the card that you picked, and we're present.
Mm.
And I think this is an incredible time for you to be doing what you're doing and sharing your wisdom, especially about the chakras and alignment, because it's game changer.
Thank you. Yes, I think so too.
It is. It is. And then starting with money,
Mm.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah. I hope people take a lot from this and start to look at their own finances and with the grace,
yes.
and allow themselves grace and have conversations that they wouldn't normally have, and realize the power of money, how it can be powerful in the best way. And you don't have to be so scared of this topic because you can use money to your advantage. What would you like people to take out of this conversation?
To start, like, ask the questions because I know they're there. Like, I see you, I hear you, I get it. And just start. I think what I would say is interview advisors,
Mm.
interview them, learn about what they do for their clients. Like you were just asking, right? And everyone's going to have a little different style and everybody's going to be a little different. However, just like start that conversation. And you can always Google like questions I ask financial advisors, but I
Yeah.
would say that just have a conversation, and
Yes.
anyone's willing to talk to you. I think that, and I would also say to let go of the misconception that you only need to work with a financial advisor when you're approaching retirement or getting ready to retire.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? It's an investment in yourself. And again, it comes down to money.
Yeah.
Like hiring somebody to help you
Yeah.
understand and properly structure money.
Just like we were talking about, putting dollars with good intention and purpose into something will come back to you.
Yes, and not being afraid of that,
Mm.
and I think that that is something that holds people back, and I get it because it's an intimidating space. I think it's invest in yourself more than anything, and like taking the responsibility to say like I want this incredible relationship with money.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Where can people find you if they want to work with you?
I would say LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Perfect.
Yeah, it's the easiest way. My contact information there. You can message me. I will respond with any questions. I will. And if I don't have the answer, I'll guide you to where you can go. Yeah, but LinkedIn is probably the easiest place.
Perfect. We'll be on the
Yeah.
lookout for anything you have going on because you are so amazing. And thank you so much for coming to chat with us.
Thank you for having me, Courtney. This was beautiful, and I so appreciated this conversation.
Love it so much. Thank you so much, Tina.
You're welcome.
Visit ablealchemy.com to download your free chakra journal and to learn more about Able Alchemy. This is a place where your dreams and reality align. through services like tarot and astrology readings, sound bath sessions, and intuitive branding for businesses looking to align with their manifestations and purpose through soul-led studies, such as astrology, business energy analysis, and chakra color theory. Follow along with Able Alchemy on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Please rate, review, and subscribe if you enjoyed the show. Thank you so much for listening, and see you next time.